Hey, Outer Banks fans, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into the much-anticipated Outer Banks Season 4 Part 2. If you thought Part 1 was a wild ride, brace yourselves because Part 2 is gearing up to take things to the next level. The Pogues are back with more treasure hunting, but this time there's a new supernatural and eerie vibe. And of course, they're after Blackbeard's legendary treasure. In this video, we'll break down the jaw-dropping ending of Part 1, the possible plot for Part 2, look at some of the craziest theories, and reveal the release date. Before we kick off, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell for more awesome content. Let's jump right in. First, we've got to talk about the insane cliffhanger at the end of Part 1. It was the kind of ending that left fans screaming at their screens. The last time we saw Sarah and Pope, they were trapped in a crypt as rainwater poured in, threatening to drown them. Both exits were sealed tight and the panic was real. How are they going to get out of this one? And speaking of huge reveals, we learned something that blew everyone's minds: JJ's real parents. Up until now, we've believed that Luke Maybank was his father. But in a shocking twist, it was revealed that Luke is not his biological dad. JJ's real parents are Larissa Jenrette and Chandler Groff, making him the grandson of none other than Wes Jenrette. This discovery flips JJ's world upside down, because it means he's technically one of the wealthiest kooks in the Outer Banks, a major identity crisis for someone who's a Pogue at heart. Meanwhile, John B. had a moment of personal growth when he almost caught Lightner, but decided to let him go. Why? Because he didn't want to become like his father, who had been willing to kill for treasure. Cleo is still hunting for revenge after Lightner murdered her father figure, Terrence. Her desire for vengeance is driving her every move. And Kiara? She's back home, anxiously waiting to reunite with JJ so they can meet the rest of the Pogues in Charleston. Rafe is making shady business moves after signing a development deal for Goat Island, but it turns out Hollis is actually working with Chandler Groff. What are these two up to? Finally, we've got Topper, who's plotting to take the Maybank land from the Pogues. So many plot lines are in the air, and it's hard to imagine how Part 2 will tie them all together. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be a roller coaster. All right, now let's dive into what might be in store for the plot of Part 2. If Part 1 set the stage, Part 2 is about to blow the roof off with action, drama, and more twists than we can keep up with. The creators have already teased that some of the biggest action sequences in the series are coming, and the Season 4 finale has been described as the best episode of the entire show. That's a bold statement, so we know we're in for something epic. In terms of plot, the trailer gave us a few exciting glimpses. One thing that stood out was the preview of a riot, and it looks like JJ might be right in the middle of it. Given that the kooks are trying to take over the Pogues' land, it's not hard to see how this could set JJ off. After all, the Maybank land is personal to him, and after finding out about his real parents, he's grappling with an identity crisis. Is he a Pogue, or is he a kook? This riot could be JJ's way of proving to himself and everyone else that he's still a Pogue at heart, despite his newfound heritage. It's a stand against the kooks and their constant attempts to overpower the Pogues. Another key moment from the teaser shows the Pogues on a Kildare County Sheriff's boat, which obviously means Pope and Sarah find a way to escape the crypt. But how do they do it? The teaser also hints that the group will reunite in Kildare after being separated, which will bring them back to their home turf. But the real mystery lies in the shots of the Pogues walking through a barren, desert-like landscape, looking exhausted and thirsty. That desert scene is a huge clue about where Part 2 might be heading. It's been confirmed that some of the filming for Season 4 took place in Morocco, so it's safe to assume the Pogues are leaving the Outer Banks and heading abroad again. We know Blackbeard's treasure is at the center of this season, and there were hints in Part 1 that Blackbeard spent time in Morocco. Plus, the amulet from Part 1 has Arabic writing on it, which could be another key to the treasure. It looks like the Pogues will be embarking on an international treasure hunt to find the elusive Blue Crown. Could this be where the final showdown between the Pogues and Lightner's crew happens? Josh Pate, one of the show's creators, has dropped a few hints about what we can expect from Part 2. He said, "They're really in a pickle in the second half, and the stakes are higher. The adventure they go on is probably my favorite. They do some globe-trotting that takes them further afield than they've ever been, where they're really out of their comfort zone, and it just makes for a really dramatic, explosive story in the second half." we'll have the biggest action scenes we've ever had. The scope of it is enormous. Another showrunner, Shannon Burke, echoed this sentiment, saying, "The first half is Pogue fun, and then the second half is more stakes, more emotion, more adventure than we've ever had." Now it's time to talk about some of the wildest fan theories out there. As we all know, Outer Banks is known for pulling off some unexpected twists, so these theories range from the super plausible to the downright outlandish. But honestly, with how crazy Part 2 is shaping up to be, anything could happen. One of the biggest questions on fans' minds is whether everyone will make it out alive. In an interview, creator Josh Pate teased, "I think you should be worried about everybody. I would say worry." So yeah, it's not looking good. Historically, no Pogue has died in the past seasons. Remember how everyone thought John B. and Sarah were dead in Season 2, only for them to come back? There's been a lot of speculation that JJ might be killed off in Part 2. Rumors have been swirling that Rudy Pankow, who plays JJ, has asked to leave the show. While nothing has been confirmed, many fans believe that this could be the show's way of giving his character a heroic exit. Maybe JJ sacrifices himself for the rest of the Pogues? And speaking of character exits, we have to talk about Rafe. Fans were devastated by Ward Cameron's death, as he was such a key presence on the show. But many believe that Rafe could be heading toward a redemption arc. He's starting to realize that the Kooks aren't all they're cracked up to be, and that family is what truly matters. We've seen him invest in the Goat Island land deal, not just for himself, but for Sophia too, showing that he's trying to do right by someone for a change. Could Rafe team up with the Pogues to help them find Blackbeard's treasure? Or, in a crazy twist, could Rafe end up sacrificing himself for Sarah, or even one of the Pogues, just like his dad did? His desire to be like Ward could foreshadow a major sacrifice, making for an emotional and unexpected moment in Part 2. Another theory gaining traction is that Hollis and Chandler, who Rafe has been dealing with, might actually be working with Lightner and the mercenaries. After all, everything seems to connect back to Goat Island and Blackbeard's treasure. Could we see an epic showdown with the Pogues and Rafe on one side, and Hollis, Chandler, and the mercenaries on the other? Now let's talk about Chandler Groff for a second. Many fans believe he's hiding something darker than we've seen so far. There's a growing theory that Chandler may have been responsible for the deaths of Larissa and Wes. His creepy demeanor certainly raises some red flags, but here's another wild twist. Some fans think that Chandler might have hired Lightner to kill Wes and the other mercenary. After all, the way they were killed by strangulation matches how Lightner tried to take out Cleo. But let's not rule out the supernatural entirely. Just because we don't think ghosts are killing people doesn't mean they aren't real. There's still a lot of eerie, supernatural undertones in Season 4, and who knows what kind of ghostly encounters the Pogues might face in Part 2. And finally, here's a fun theory that's been making the rounds. When JJ asked Luke who his real dad is, Luke pointedly said, "Isn't it obvious?" And the camera panned to Chandler Groff. But what if that's just another misdirect? Some fans believe that Sheriff Shoop might actually be JJ's real dad. We've seen Shoop being unusually kind and understanding toward JJ this season, and he's been trying to look out for the Pogues while also solving cases. It's definitely a stretch, but it would be a fun twist, especially considering Shoop's past relationship with Larissa. And in one of the wilder fan theories, some even suggest that Sarah and Rafe's mom could have been Larissa, making JJ and Sarah siblings. That theory has been around for a while, but it's definitely more of a long shot. Now, the biggest question on everyone's mind: when is the release date of Season 4, Part 2? Fans have been eagerly waiting for news, and thankfully, the wait isn't going to be too long. If you've noticed, this isn't the first time Netflix has split a season into 2 parts. They've done this with some of their biggest shows like Bridgerton, Cobra Kai, and Emily in Paris. While some fans have been vocal about their dislike for this model, it's proven to be pretty successful. And Outer Banks is no exception. Season 4 Part 2 is expected to drop on November 7th, 2024, which is exactly 4 weeks after the release of Part 1. That's right, we only have a little while longer to wait before the Pogues return for more action and mystery. With Part 2 of Season 4 still not fully released, there's been no official confirmation of a Season 5, yet. But don't worry, because the show's creators have big plans for the future. Jonas Pate has shared, We think about the first 3 seasons as a trilogy, and then we're starting over on another sort of trilogy now. We just needed to clear the decks. So it seems like they've already mapped out seasons 5 and 6, which would follow the continuing story of Blackbeard's treasure, the mysterious curse, and the hunt for the Blue Crown. This means that even after the insane events of Part 2, we might still have more treasure hunting adventures with the Pogues to look forward to. The creators are clearly building a new chapter for the show, and with Blackbeard's treasure at the center of it all, the stakes are only going to get higher. With the Pogues up against dangerous mercenaries, intense personal conflicts, and the biggest treasure they've ever hunted, Part 2 is set to deliver more action, more drama, and maybe even a few heart-wrenching moments. So, get ready for what's sure to be a mind-blowing second half of Season 4. Thanks for watching. Who's your favorite character and your favorite couple from Outer Banks? What did you think of Season 4? What are some of your predictions for Part 2? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.